Hey, everybody. I'm here with one of the best people in the world, Kami Schwartz. She is brilliant, she is kind, and she saves many people's lives, including mine, when it comes to reproductive health. And not just the ladies, but also the men, because she educates us all on what's important and what we need to know when it comes to reproductive health and our faith and all the science in between. So I'm excited to talk to Kami a little bit about those things, but also her life as a business person and an entrepreneur and what that looks like for her and her faith. And this is just an attempt to be encouraging to all the amazing people out there who are trying to build businesses that bless the world and bring more Jesus lights into the world. And Cami is definitely one of those lights. So I'm excited to introduce you to her. So Cami is a reproductive health doula and educator. And she has a wide range of things that she offers. She did lots of traditional doula work, and now she focuses more on education. I was lucky enough to have her as my doula, and also as my educator. So she teaches all ages from parents with itty bitty babies, obviously, as those kids grow up, and then moving into their own reproductive health with puberty and high school, and then learning, like sex education, what's up with the pill, what's up with birth control, all of those things, all the way to perimenopause
Oh, that was
and how
great.
to
Thank
handle
you,
that. So she
Annette.
does it all. So that's Cami, and she's awesome. But Cami, do you have anything you want to add about yourself and what you love to do?
Yeah, thank you, Annette. Thanks for that introduction. I do love what I do. Like you said, I work with girls in their period health and then in pregnancy and postpartum and perimenopause, all the P's. I like alliteration with that. But yes, I just love all of the emotional and spiritual work that happens when we're going through those transformational phases of life. So, a lot of fun.
hmm Yeah, and it's interesting, like I said, Cami doesn't do as much of the traditional, like, doula work when I think people think about being a doula as, like, going to the hospital or being at the home birth or birth center, but I know, like, the word doula means a lot to you because it's more of, like, a facilitator. You say it
Mhm.
better than I do. How do you use doula?
Right, yeah, so I started off as a traditional doula and still get to do it every now and then, but it like you said, is not the primary thing I'm doing right now. Um, but it's such a important space that I think gets overlooked sometimes. It's the in between where we're not a provider, we're not like, calling the shots, but we are there to process everything with our clients and inform them, help them understand their options. I think that doctor's appointments, whether it's for your period or your fertility or in your pregnancy, these doctor appointments are so fast. And it's like you get in and out of there, and appointments with me are so slow. Where we can really just like go deep and dive into it a little bit more and talk not just about the options, but how do you feel about each option? What are your alternatives? What do you feel like where is God leading you in it? There's so many different things that come up when we're trying to navigate the journey. So sometimes I'll use the word guide. I like to use the word shepherd as like a companion to go with you through the journey. So,
Yeah.
someone
And I think I've
who
heard you said it's kinda like a Sherpa, right? Like a that would guide you up Everest. Isn't that what they call
Oh, yes, I've
guide
heard
up
that before too. I don't know how much I've said that, but I've heard that too, where
Everest?
just have somebody who kinda knows the road ahead, a lot of the common things that people are facing, and can help you wrestle with them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really special to me, and it's not like working with Cam was really my first exposure to this space. I don't think it's very common. I think locally in our area, maybe it is because we have a large Amish Mennonite community. So there's
Mm.
a lot more home birth culture. And I think maybe some of that has come more to the forefront in mom culture with just like wanting to do things more naturally and holistically and like some of the anxiety around. like traditional Western medicine and like all of those things. So like maybe it's kind of moved to the forefront for some people, but I think like, and I know you've heard all the time, and like for girls like me and most of the people our age, millennials, like you went to public school and you didn't learn anything about your reproductive health, except
Mhm.
for maybe they taught you you have a period in sixth grade and like maybe you had a little bit of sex ed. But beyond that, it was just like, you get your period. If it's bad, you get on birth control pills because, like, then you can play sports without
Mm.
worrying about it, or, like, that was basically the extent of our education.
Mhm. Yeah, oh my word. And I've been doing this all for about 10 years now, and so the difference between how we're approaching everything now versus
Mhm.
how we were doing it 10 years ago is just crazy. I was thinking about that today with my oldest just turned 10 this week. And my youngest is 6 months. And so I've been doing motherhood now for 10 years too. And just like the difference in culture 10 years ago it's crazy. And
Mhm.
especially like we have pre and post COVID and how that has
Yeah.
impacted the way we, approach our health is just so tremendous. So yeah, lots of changing conversations about women's health.
Yeah, definitely. And, yeah, it's exciting that it's more at the forefront, but I feel like there's just still so much mystery and still so little education and so little
Mhm.
science that
Yep.
it's very confusing. So, like,
Yep.
this is such a rare space, but I know, like, you have a very distinct story of, like, how God led you into this. Would you mind sharing that with everybody?
Yeah, I always love sharing this story because it's still every time I think about it, I'm so like, wow, how did this happen? How did this become
Uh,
my life?"
yeah,
uh,
it's so unique.
yeah, because I was, like 17 in high school in my English class, not knowing at all what I wanna be or, what my path was going to look like, and my
Mhm.
English teacher just, like, brought it up one day randomly, we were just talking, he's like, "Oh, yeah, my sister's a doula," and I was like, "A what?" And, so, he explained it, and it was just, like, in that moment, that was my calling right there. And I was thinking about it even earlier today. Like I don't know why, because I was just like a normal high school girl in that moment. Like, do I even want to have kids? Childbirth sounds really scary. I don't know that I want to go through that. And then
Mhm.
yet somehow this came up, and it was just like that's me. Like that's who I am. And I don't know what it was, but my friends started calling me Cam Doula at that point, and so that became my nickname, and it just really, yeah, became my identity, and of course, it has evolved quite a bit since then. It was like 15 years ago or something like that,
Mhm.
but I just love what it has become.
I mean, it sounds like a divine appointment to me.
Yeah,
Like, it
I
was just
guess.
was downloaded to you. But also you had, like, your own health experiences before that, like, around,
Mhm.
like, your first period, right?
Yes, yeah,
You
and
start
yeah, it was crazy to me too that, like, I didn't even see those pieces come together until a long time later, but yes, as an
mhm.
11-year-old girl, so soon after my first period, I developed, some cysts and had to be going to the OBGYN at 11 and,
So
dealing
scary.
with that. I know, it was crazy, and, I just remember, like, shaking uncontrollably with fear and it was really just I thought, like, maybe this is just part of puberty, part of growing up. Maybe I did something wrong with the way that I'm taking care of my body, you know? And
Mhm.
I also, like, I dealt with, like, is this normal or not? And so I went, like, several months thinking these cysts were normal, and then suddenly I found out they weren't, and that whole experience, instilled a lot of fear in me about my body. And, eventually they, did some tests on the cysts and found they were precancerous, and so it was just like a whole thing, and I really spiraled into, like, intense anxiety, especially, like, 12 and then, like, going into junior high, so between, like, 11, 12, 13, I was really dealing with really intense anxiety about my body, thinking, like, everything that I think is normal could be cancer. because that's the experience I went through.
Yeah.
And, like, it sounds so crazy to say, but, like, I would just go to bed at night and just think I was gonna die in the middle of the night, and that really gripped me for a long time, and it was in that experience that I really encountered Jesus for the first time in a real way.
Mm.
My mom had typed up Psalm 91 with my name in it and laid it on my bed, and I remember reading it and just feeling completely weightless, and, he just completely took that anxiety from me and replaced it with a peace that, I can't explain. The peace that surpasses understanding for real was in that moment. And that health anxiety, I've dealt with it in smaller amounts here and there, especially in my pregnancies. That's when anxiety tends to rise for me. But the
Mhm.
way that it like gripped me so strongly in those couple of months where it got really bad, that has just been gone ever since. So that was really my first, like, I grew up in a Christian home. I knew about God, but that was my first real, true encounter with Jesus.
Mhm.
And it's so crazy to think that, like, all of those pieces came together. And now that's what I get to do is like, whatever women or girls are dealing with in their reproductive health, like, take those before the Lord and
Mhm.
watch what he wants to do with them. So really, really
Yeah.
special. I think it's an amazing area of work.
Yeah. Like, again, to me, it's just so unique because I think as a kid, I do think, like, the experiences that you meet Jesus in are, like, what you're won to. So, like, I have had lots of experiences with Jesus at camps, so, like, that's something that I really love and I'm passionate about, and, like,
Mhm.
you experiencing that in your body, but I feel like it's so rare, especially for kids, because obviously, most of the time, we hope kids are healthy, and that's not a
Mhm.
concern, and so you're not as often meeting Jesus with your body in that way, and I think, for most of us, we come from more of a faith background that cuts out any focus on the body and, like,
Mhm.
doesn't really see it as something that is part of our spiritual being, like, it's, can get into some of those heresies, but, like, we
Mhm.
think of it more as separate, like, your body is something you're gonna leave behind, so just don't worry about it, like, you don't need to
Yeah.
take your all of those kinda things, but, like, I think that that's so unique that, like, this is something that is really important to Jesus, and he met you in that, and I just think, like, that to me is something that I have learned so much from you is, like, that your body isn't trying to kill you, it's not bad,
Mhm.
it's God made it for good things, and he wants to meet you in ways with your body, and, like, that peace he gave you, like, I just know that that's what you give to other people too, and, like, he allowed that sufferings for you to take
Mhm.
care of other people who go through this, so yeah, it's just a special thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I think what you were saying is so right. Like, I think as women are pretty comfortable just saying like, "Oh, my body's broken because I live in a broken world and that's just how it is." And
Mhm,
um but when I talk to women about that and you like talk more about it, when women are saying my body is broken, most of the time underneath it they're saying I'm broken, right? Like something's wrong with me. Um
mhm,
like, why can't I do this thing that women are supposed to do? Or maybe I'm not called to do this. Maybe I'm not supposed to be a mom. There's all these like underlying questions with it. So even though we can
mhm,
like try to separate it and just say like, oh, my body's broken because we're living a broken world. This is sin in the world. And like you said, I'm just going to leave it behind anyways.
mhm,
Um, there's so much underneath that needs to be like fleshed out. And it's so important that we talk through that. And then on the same breath, there's this like disconnect between what your body is doing and what's happening spiritually. So like we almost take on all of these things as if they're a sin issue, where instead it might be something going on with your body. So it's
mhm.
like we can over spiritualize some things and then under spiritualize some things. And I think that is important that we really look at that critically. and really kind of flesh it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing to me because to me, I'm like, "Nobody else is doing this." I know some people are, but, like, if you grew up in 2000 youth group culture, like, purity movement and slightly after, like, you probably do have a lot of shame issues, or you're just
Mm,
like you just know that you can't talk to your pastor about your body. Like, they don't understand,
mm,
and it's not appropriate, and, like, all of these different things, so they're just like, "Where do you go?" Like,
mhm,
who is that person who helps you talk about that? And if it's, like, not your mom because you don't have that relationship or you don't feel comfortable talking to her or she doesn't know either, like, it's like, where
mhm.
do you go? The school's not gonna teach you that.
Yeah. No, I know. It is crazy. I hear it every day, like, "Why did I not learn these things sooner?" And I think that's really exciting that we're really learning so much about the female body,
Mhm.
and so I'm glad about that. But yeah, it's been a thing for millennia, right? That women are shamed about their bodies, in one way or another, even thinking about like witch hunts and, the hysteria that went on and, all
Mhm.
of those different things. It's like, ah, man, I wish that we would have had this knowledge sooner, but I'm so, so grateful that God is allowing us to have it now,
Mhm.
and really start to use it to unpack these things and see him in such a cool light, because I do think, starting with the Garden of Eden, female reproductive health is such a spiritual issue.
Yeah. Yeah, and Kimmy has lots of brilliant thoughts about that theologically, and one day she'll get her book too. And we could go into those things, but, I'll jump off that for a minute just so we can talk about some more business things, but
Sure.
if there are, we'll get back to more of those things, for sure. But, for you in, like, God has stirred this thing in your heart, now you're like, "Okay, I wanna pursue that." Doula is something you hear in high school, that's something
Mhm.
attainable, but then you're doing that, and then God kinda shifts your vision again. What's that process like, and why was that worth pursuing?
Yeah, yeah, it's been an always evolving thing for sure in the last 10 years, and especially I've had 4 babies now, so each time it shifts, and then I also had 2 miscarriages in the middle of that. So 2 babies, 2 miscarriages, 2 babies, and that has really shifted things too. So after my 2nd baby, I really felt a calling for, like, this is a ministry. This isn't just a business, and, so that was after my 2nd baby, which would have been, like, 8 years ago, and I'm still just, like, fleshing it out, figuring out what that means. What does it look like practically?
Yeah.
Um and I prayed about that for a long time. Like, I think you want this to be more of a ministry, not just a business, but what does that mean? Then I went through my miscarriages, and that's when it started to make a lot more sense because I really understood the, fertility world a lot more deeply. I understood the pain that women were going through, as it
Mm,
relates to their reproductive health, and I understood how deeply spiritual like these things are. And we ask those questions like, why did God allow this? Why is God doing this to me? Why, all of those different things. And so but as you know, Annette, it still just took me more and more time to really attach to the identity of like, okay, this is a ministry and I really am here to watch Jesus move in the midst of
mhm.
reproductive health, not just, help women have good births. It was really um a shift that it's clear, but it took so long to really, like, kind of understand what it means and watch God, move through it.
Yeah, because it's really uncharted waters, and so it's really a step of faith. Because, like I said, it's like it's not like these ministries exist. Like, there's some people who are doing good work as believers in this space,
Mhm,
typically as counselors, though, and obviously there's, like, a paywall there, but there's some who have done more on education with usually it's sex and marriage, but, like,
mhm,
there's not a lot of people talking about this as a believer, and I can imagine, and I've seen that there is tension that you feel too on how do you talk about this as a believer in a way that's scientific
Mhm.
and also approachable from the church, and,
Mhm.
so how do you wrestle through the friction of, like, where does this belong? Where does
Yeah.
this voice belong?
No, that's a good question. I still, am figuring that out, I think. I think that, someone asked me recently, like, "What do you do?" And it's like, okay, how do I explain that in
How much do
I
you
don't
wanna know?
have a one-sentence synopsis of what I do, other than I guess I would say I help women encounter Jesus through their reproductive health, and then people are like, what does that mean?" And are
Mhm.
we talking about um like all these different rules, like what does God say about how you should do family planning? Like that's not what it's about. I had to recently describe this to somebody too because they're like, what do you mean like God and reproductive health? Like that sounds tricky, but it's really it's really just inviting him into that process, because I think he so deeply cares about it. And then making room. I don't pretend to know like what he wants to do in a woman's life. I
Mhm.
just make room for him to do it. So, but yeah, it's hard to categorize what I do.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So, and it's still just like, you know what? I'm just waking up each morning, figuring out what it is that I'm supposed to do that day, and remembering. And you've helped me with this too. Like it's women. It's the specific women that are on my mind that day as far as like this is the woman that God is speaking to right now. So this is the woman that we're going to rather than like I don't know, projects or stats or all of those different things. It's very
Mhm.
people oriented and that's what I love the most. I love my like one-on-one time with women really being able to dive deep.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, it's like uncovering a more ancient way of doing things. Because I don't think it's, like, necessarily new, but I think that we've lost track of it so much in our culture. Because I think what you're encountering the most is probably loneliness, like,
Mm,
"I'm alone in this," even
mhm.
though so many women, like, we're all going through it, and, like, we used to have cultures that were more interconnected, that you were with other women and sharing baby responsibilities and taking care of one another with your extended family, and, like, we're just so much more isolated now that it's like,
Mhm.
we need more people like Cami to just be a friend and be
Mm.
somebody who can, like, pray for us and have the knowledge to take care of us. Because yeah, your doctor, they're gonna help you with your symptoms and tell you what they're supposed to tell you from the textbooks, but you know, there's a lot of fear on their end too, I'm sure, with all the things they're liable for and have to cover their butts and
Mhm.
paperwork and things they have to do, and so, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the medical world is so complex too, and I think doctors have a great place, but there's just so much more to it. Women are just feeling these things so deeply, whether it's pregnancy or period problems or whatever, fertility issues that we really, yeah, we need somebody to uh, like wrestle with those things.
Mhm.
Because it can be just very like, okay, we take this, we do this, we can try that, and then you're in and out of there and you don't even know what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, to me, it's like it's a rediscovering of, like, the sacredness of femininity and God's
Mm,
design for that. Like, I think we've spent so much time as a culture wanting to be the same as men,
yep.
and have leaned towards the unhealthy side of that, that we've forgotten the value of being a woman, and so, like, rediscovering that there are good, unique things about women, and just because there's not a lot of scientific studies about it, doesn't mean, like, it's not worth learning together and figuring out how to celebrate that more.
Oh, absolutely. It is such a crazy thing. Like we did not have the research to know anything about women, 30 years ago. Like we were not studying women very closely when it comes to like all different things, lots of different topics. They would just exclude women because women were too complicated to study. And now it's
Yeah.
just like there's been such a growing amount of research to help women in this area. And I love that. And I love what you're saying too, is like so much of what we were searching for when it came to like equality or women's rights or whatever was about making us more like men. And now that we are like seeing it in a new light, it's like there's so much beauty in the way that women are created. We're not created as problems.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that ultimately, like, that's healing for women, but it's also so healing spiritually to realize, like, God God had some really good ideas in the way that he created women, and, I love thinking about, like, education as worship because every time I learn more about the female body, I learn more about God and the beauty and the care that he wove into us,
Mhm.
into our physiology. I think, like, there's so many things that we think about as problems, and yet now I can see them in ways that, like, God was actually caring for women in the way he wove them together. Like, he was looking out for them, he was thinking ahead, and,
Mhm.
I like, just a quick example is, like,
Yeah.
postpartum sex drive. Like, that's something that so many women have been like, "Why do I not like, something's wrong with me." The marriage is like, "Is something wrong with the marriage here because we just don't have this drive, we're not connecting like we used to."
Mhm.
There's not that, intimacy there in the way that there used to be. Um, but seeing it from a physiology perspective, it's like, okay, if you're breastfeeding or postpartum, naturally our hormones are low, and this is actually God's care for the design of women of like, okay, let's actually give you a break in between pregnancies. So, sex is not something that you need in this moment.
Mhm.
And there's other ways to connect for sure. We're more emotionally vulnerable in postpartum. And so that we kind of go back to the emotional part of our relationship in our marriage because that is, the area that we're really needing support in. And even just like the practical, teamwork and things like that. So I think that there's so many different levels to intimacy, and there's certain times that we're naturally going to be focusing more on different types of intimacy
Mhm.
because of our physiology. And that's not a bad thing. That's
Mhm.
something that when we understand it, we can really embrace to deepen our relationships and our marriage. So just
Yeah.
different things like that. I'm like, wow, God really cares for women. He's
Mhm.
not like, they're not broken. They're not, um, something's not wrong with them. They're just going through
Mhm.
something that he designed them to go through.
Yeah. And he cares for our design too. Like, I just even this is so revolutionary for women, but, like, I'm lucky enough to have a husband who really cares about
Mhm.
this sort of thing too, and all that he has learned just, like, makes our marriage so much stronger,
Mhm.
and there are so many times that we have taught teenage boys these kind of things because 'cause they're like, "I
Mhm.
don't understand my girlfriend," and, like, all of this stuff. But, like, it's if we can educate another generation on, like, "Hey, men, this isn't a gross, icky thing," which is usually the response I get from older men who were
Yep.
taught, "This is a gross, icky thing. You don't go in the hospital room when the baby's born. You don't talk about periods. You just stay away during that time." But,
Mhm.
like, how
Mhm.
can we teach each other to lean in
Mhm.
this and see it as part of the design and part of why we work together well instead of just separating during it, so
Yep. No, I think that's so cool. I love dads and husbands who yeah, are like really excited to learn more, and I've had couples, really even in family planning, like really be able to understand each other and be more, I mean, for the lack of a better term, like be in sync to each
Yeah,
other more because
see what
they're
you mean.
aware of the cycle and, what's going on
Mhm.
there and something they're doing together. So I just think there's a deeper level of intimacy that comes when men are open to learning more about women. So I think that's so fun, and I'm glad you get to experience that.
Yeah, blessed and hell my favorite. But, like, I think it's in the calling. If husbands are called to lay down their life for their wife like Christ laid down for our church, it's not just to die, like, it's also dying to yourself in many ways, and there are many
Mhm.
times my husband dies to himself to take care of me, and, like, that's just another way, like, he can protect me when I'm vulnerable as I'm learning about
Mhm.
this or going through different cycles, and I can create something beautiful that he can't, and he can help protect that, and yeah,
Yeah.
all of
Yeah,
those.
no, absolutely. I love even that scripture that you are referencing, uses so many like caretaking, verbs. So like
Mhm,
feeding each other and that type of thing and how that stuff becomes so important like postpartum. Again, for example, it's like um women are used to being the one who makes the meals or whatever. That's kind of our, typical way, but like postpartum it
mhm,
all shifts and then suddenly like husbands are feeding their wives and I think that there's something really beautiful about going through different phases of life
mhm,
where one of you feeds the other one and then later on the other, that one feeds the other one. So,
yeah,
um there is just so much beauty in that and in beauty in going through different phases where you're more vulnerable than you used to be.
yeah, 100%. See, it affects all of life, not
It
just
does.
it affects everything, but
Yep.
okay, so tell me a little bit, and let me get my brain back on track from my rabbit trail, but, tell me about, like, how you take care of yourself emotionally, spiritually in this business where you are doing so much of carrying the load for other people processing through.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, well, I think, like, first and foremost, I am really careful about how many clients I'm taking on, and as I mentioned, I've had lots of my own babies since I've been doing this work, and so
Yeah.
it's definitely gone up and down. There's been seasons where I can have a lot of clients, and then there's seasons where I can't have too very many clients. Like I just don't have the emotional capacity. So it's being aware of that and it's surrendering to that, which is hard for me. I have a 6-month-old right now, so my capacity is low right now for carrying lots of other people's stories and that's been hard again because I said at the beginning, right? Like being a doula is such a part of my identity, but I'm, very much a mother right now, and that is where most of my energy is going. And so but that's exactly what I'm working with women as they become moms and going through that postpartum transition. And so, it's really about being very honest about that and surrendering to it and recognizing that just because we're in a phase where we've pruned or, scaled back, that doesn't mean we're killing the plant, right? Like when we prune something,
Mhm.
it's for a time, for a specific purpose, and eventually it's to carry more fruit. So I have to keep remembering that, and keep coaching myself in that it's okay to pull back and prune at
Mhm.
certain times. And then it's also just, making sure that I am taking these things before the Lord too. So it's not on me to carry these things. It is it's on Jesus and that's the whole point, right? So
Yeah.
the scripture I always go back to is surely he has carried our sorrows and that's what we're doing. So I am like making the introduction, right? Like here's Jesus, here's a reproductive health sorrow, and like,
Mhm.
and then letting Jesus do the work, and that is hard, um, because yeah, of course, I want to do whatever I can to help out, but It's really, yeah, knowing limits. I also am really strict about things like Sabbath, because I think that's so important. And again, that's something I really work with my clients too. I think women are just used to pushing on, going as hard as possible, keep going, carrying more and more and more. And there has to be um a day of rest, honestly, like where we just like lay all those things down before the Lord. And that's so hard. It's still really hard for me to do that, but it's been such an important practice as I've been involved more and more with work,
Mhm.
to really make sure that I'm taking time away from that. And what I love about Sabbath is just it's the realization that God is still working even when I'm not. And so it's really humbling but also freeing to sit in those days of rest.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that great? Like, you can just do less and God does more. He just
He
keeps going.
does. It's crazy. It's like you just
Pretty
don't, it doesn't
nice.
make sense, but it's so true.
What has been most surprising to you about having a business in this space or a ministry in this
Mhm.
space?
Mhm. Um I think I don't know if it's, super surprising, but it always is a little bit like, okay, yes, we are still dealing with these issues. So it's just like
Mhm.
the pushback that you get, or the common obstacles that women are facing, whether it's, like in the doctor's office or in the delivery room. It's those things that they just keep showing up. And the different, like, spiritual mindsets that are so ingrained. I think it's always
Yeah.
surprising to see how, like, deeply rooted those are. So, like, somebody has a rough birth experience, and like, a nurse said to me, "Well, this is just how God planned it," and it's like, no, that is not that's not how God planned it. And I like, of course God is sovereign, and he can use all things, but there's just different things like that that we kind of run into over and over again of um these kind of deeply rooted spiritual lies,
Mhm.
or distortion of truth
Mhm.
that women are facing. So I think there's that. And then just from a business mindset, I think it's like um it's crazy how often I have to come back to like the foundation and the goal of like, okay, I can get so overwhelmed with this marketing person's telling me I got to do it this way, and this one's saying I got to do it that way, and how fast the algorithm responds to stuff too. So like if I let myself get too intrigued with someone's like big promise of
Yeah.
making millions or whatever, I am suddenly like deep in the rabbit hole. So it's like I constantly have to be renewing my mind and like pruning off and like teaching the algorithm, that this is not what I want to hear. This is what I need to hear.
Mhm.
There's so many voices of like, it's got to be this way. You got to do it that. And it can get so
Mhm.
overwhelming so fast. And just remembering like what is mine to carry and what is not mine to carry. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's surprising in that like you think you got it figured out, and then like bam 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 you're hit with like 10 messages all of a sudden, and then you have to like redo all the work.
Yeah. Yeah. From the marketing perspective, it's very frustrating. But even from, like, just anyone in, like, small business world, there's so much noise
Mhm.
on the internet about do it this way and you'll see success, but, like, that is not you can have best practices, but there is no silver bullet for success. And
Mhm.
if you could gain success the way you wanted to, but God wasn't in it, would you want it anyway? You
Right.
know? So, yeah, the surrender piece is really hard because 'cause it'd be nice to have millions of dollars
It would be.
and
It
millions of
would
others.
be. Yep. Oh, I know. Yeah, it is hard because it is so easy to just get like lured into things, and it's like the world's perspective versus the kingdom perspective, and just remembering like, yeah, you do have to like deliberately go back to it every day of like, this is what I'm after, this is not what I'm after, and then like set your
Mhm.
sights on that and set your algorithm on it.
Yeah, best you can.
Yeah.
We had, one time at camp, one of our leaders was like, "You gotta tell your algorithm what you want." And then I got home and one of our campers was sitting with me, she had come with me, and I'm sitting there watching TV and I just hear her go, "Jesus! Jesus!" She's just, like, shouting Jesus into her phone, hoping to influence the algorithm to give her She's like, "I know they're listening."
That'll work. It'll do it.
I was like, "That's brilliant. I love it."
That's funny.
Anyway, yeah,
Mm.
tell me about a time that you were talking with a client and you were like, "Wow, yes, this is why it's worth it."
Yeah, I was just thinking about that with this conversation too, because, like I post on social media, right? And that's because that's what I'm supposed to do. And recently I did a post and it was not like geared toward making me any money or anything like that. I was just sharing something. And so now it's been like a couple months since I made that post. And somebody in my real life, I was talking to her last week and she was like, that post that you posted a couple months back? And I'm like, I don't know what post. And she's like, that really helped. Me and my husband, we like sat down with it and like talked through some of it. And
Wow.
it was like, oh, okay, yeah. Like to actually make a difference in somebody's life and their marriage and postpartum experience. It's like that's what you do, why you do what you do. And
Mhm.
so I think that's important. And then like this week, one of my fertility clients that I'd had for a while gave birth to her first baby. And it's easy to just think like, okay, yeah, that was like a victory and that's great. But then like you really sit with it like this is a new soul living on our earth now. And it's so great to be a part of that. So different things like that. I also had a conversation this week with a different client, navigating some hormone stuff. And again, it's that like being in the middle space, like I am not a doctor, but that's on purpose. I'm remembering, like, I don't aspire to be a doctor. It's not like I, wanted to and couldn't, and that's why I'm a doula. It's like this space in between is so important.
Mhm.
So like she was trying to understand a conversation she was having with her doctor and trying to figure out like what her next steps are and know what her options are. And so to be able to just be like, oh, like here is what I would write out, to your doctor. Here's the message, something like this, because these are your next steps. And it sounds like this is the direction you're wanting to go. And
Mhm.
so, for her to be able to just take that back to the doctor and the doctor to understand and they make a plan together that makes sense for her, that she's excited about, that is really exciting too. Just to give women the tools to like advocate for themselves in the doctor's office and know um how their doctor can best serve them too, because I think one thing I always am remembering and reminding my clients is like doctors are humans too. They're not the enemy. They have a specific purpose and a specific
Mhm.
set of tools. And if we can, help them be in that space that, they feel like they can help you, um, that just makes a big difference. So like really understanding each person's role, I think is so helpful. And so
Yeah.
it's just great to be in that space and kind of mitigate that conversation.
So huge, yeah. There's just layers and layers and layers of things that you don't know till you get in this space, and then there's, like, all of the decisions at once, and you're like, "I
Mhm.
don't know." It's just ChatGPT wishes that it could keep up, but it can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. ChatGPT, I enjoy it, but it has failed me for sure in certain times where it's like, no, sorry, you got it wrong there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and again, I think that there's like the human to human connection that's so important when it comes to medicine. Like, how are we really how are you what are you hearing when the doctor says this? And then how can we like respond in a way that feels most helpful and empowering to you? So there is such an important, it's not just, I think that so many people just think that their doctor is a computer that's like taking in all these information like ChatGPT, right? Like we think our
Mhm,
doctor is AI where they're just like taking in the conversation or the information, computing it, and it
mhm.
gives them the formula to fix it. And that's not true. There's so many different approaches, so many different things we think about, so many different connections, so many ways that our bodies are being impacted by, stress and trauma and different, things like that. There's so many layers to it. And so it's so important that we have that emotional awareness when we're dealing with health.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so much. Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast, but,
It is. Yeah, sorry,
uh
I keep going down my rabbit trails.
no, it's almost impossible to do because, like I said, there's just so many layers to what you do that plug, you can join and listen to the Kim Dula Collective where you can talk about all these
Mm,
different subjects, and you can
yes.
book a little free chat with Cami to see maybe what a next step would look like for you, but
Mm,
yeah, it's just complex, and I was the other day talking to some coworkers that are just starting to explore fertility and wanting to have babies and discovering they have all these issues and stuff. And it's
mhm.
very frustrating to
Yep.
discover you have all these issues when you didn't know that was going to be a hindrance. And then that puts your timeline off and all those questions
Mhm.
in place. So,
Mhm.
yes. But ask Kimmy about those things. She'll
Yeah.
tell you. But
Yep.
okay, Kimmy, what do you think in 10 to 20 years? Your babies are grown and married and having their own babies. What kind of legacy do you want to leave with this work that you're doing?
Wow, what a big question.
Mhm,
Yeah, I hope, um that I'm just part of, and again, I'm not the only one doing like we said, this is a little bit of a niche thing, but there are so many great people talking about the connection between, the body and the spirit and the mind, and there's lots of good work being done in this area. So I hope that I'm just part of that movement that is changing the way we think, specifically about the female body. And
mhm,
so I hope, in 10 to 20 years, we really do see it totally differently, not so much as a problem to fix. Of course, there are issues that come up, but like we see our bodies as a vessel, as something that has been so brilliantly designed, as something that communicates with us, and as something that really demonstrates to us the deep love that God has for us. So yeah, I just hope that's the main thing. I think that women, and girls, right? So I think it's so important to be having this conversation with our 8-year-old girls and, even younger probably, but like
mhm.
really changing the way we see the female body is I think what's really important to me, and I hope that there's a real fundamental shift in the next couple of decades.
I believe it. It's coming. Full confidence.
Yes, yes, and just I think so many women just walk around feeling so burdened by their bodies, right? Like,
Yep.
whether it's period problems or they think like, why can't I get pregnant or why can't my births be easy or, things like that. So many women are just so burdened by that, and I would love for those women to not be carrying around the shame or the stress or the stigma of like, why is my body acting this way? So,
Yeah.
when I think about my own daughters, I have 4 daughters. So when I think about them, I really hope that they have a more clear view of their body, something that they don't see what's happening in their body and then like feel the shame of that. Instead, I hope they
Mhm.
just see it as communication and as a way that their body is truly caring for them and looking out for them.
Yeah. Okay, so what would you say to someone who's faith driven and feels called to make a difference in a space like yours that is misunderstood or unconventional?
Mm. I would say it's awesome. It's a great calling. I think one of the things I've been thinking about this week, just on a like zoomed out perspective,
Mhm,
is how cool it is that humanity gets to continue to discover God. And like God is so much, he's so much bigger, so much more than we can, ask or imagine.
mhm,
And so when we're called to like explore these very niche areas, we get to experience God and learn more about God than humanity has in the past. And I think that's so cool. Like that God is we have the scripture, seek me and you will find me if you seek me with all your heart. Like he wants to be found, he wants to be known.
mhm.
And even just one person, you know, going after God, pursuing God, and learning more about Him in this specific area, whatever area it might be, we can bring that new awareness of God to the rest of the world. And I think that's so, so cool. I just think, yeah, that, like I said, there's so much more to God than we know about. It's taken thousands of years to learn more about Him, and it will probably still take another, several thousand years, but the pursuit of God is so worth it.
Mhm.
And there's so many people in the world that I think it's great for specific people to dedicate themselves to specific areas. So go for it and explore and learn and ask God, and He will continue to reveal Himself over and over again.
Amen, and it's just really cool.
It is. It's super cool.
Just status awesomeness. Okay, last big question, and we'll wrap it up. But ministry people listening to this podcast, what do you wish the church talked about more openly when it comes to women's reproductive health?
Mm, all of it. uh, yeah, I feel like I've been doing lots of church events lately, and it's been so fun
Yeah.
to be able to, whether it's like a mom's group and talk about postpartum and hormones and everything going on there, or women's ministry, or like in a couple weeks I'm going to a youth group to do a
Yeah.
period Q&A. So I wish we would talk about these things so much more openly, because it's so blurry, the line between like spiritual health and hormonal health. And, I think so many women just think like, well, if I just had more faith, this would be different, right? If I just had more faith, I wouldn't be dealing with PMS. If I just had more, discipline or whatever, I wouldn't feel so snappy, or, those types of things. And of course, there's like spiritual refinement that needs to be done, but it's so important that we're also aware of what's going on hormonally, and be able to look at that with, um truth, and not like this like muddy water of you're bad, or there's, bad things that's going on, or you need to like it's your fault or whatever. So I think that, yeah, I wish we would approach more things from a physiological perspective and really understand what's going on with women as they are going through these different stages, not only of the cycle, right? So we have these different stages of the cycle every single month.
Mhm.
I wish we understood that a lot more when we talk about marriage and we talk about sex. And then these different, huge phases of a woman's life when we think about like trying to conceive, pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, and everything going on there. So
Mhm.
yeah, just wish that there was more understanding of that. And of course, like we're all learning at the same time.
Mhm.
Um, but I wish we were a lot more open about it too, and practical. I think that it's really easy to say things that sound really good but aren't practical, or like we don't know how to actually flesh them out. So I love like giving practical ways to, go through postpartum, or whatever it might be, so that we're not just like chasing this like illusion of this is what I should be doing, and not really ever being able to hit that because it's not clear, and because we have these different hormonal, processes going on in our bodies. So would love to
Mhm.
just talk more about that for sure.
definitely. And Cammy's available for anyone who would like to, share
Yes, super
things, but
fun. Like I said, I love the church events. That's what's been super fun
it's
lately.
revolutionary. Can you imagine? What if the church was leading the way in empowering women in their reproductive health?
I
Like,
love
that
it,
would
and
really
yeah,
change America.
it would. It'd be so fun, and it's so good. I spoke at our church last Mother's Day and talked a lot about female reproductive health and mental health. And what was so surprising to me about that was the amount of men that came up to me afterwards and they were like, thank you. 70-year-old men being like, thank you so much for teaching us about this. Like, we didn't know.
Yeah,
And that was like the most shocking thing to me. I thought the message was for the women, and of course it was, but the men were like, we need more of this. So I think it's great. I think we should definitely keep talking about it.
yeah. And I love men. More
More
men in this
men.
space celebrating.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. We do. We love men, and that's important.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks, Cami. I love you. You're the best. You can find Cami on the social medias, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram,
Mhm.
and on her website at kamischwartz.com, which has a plethora of resources, which you will not have enough time to go through because there's so many good ones. But check it out. There's also lots of online courses if you're more of a visual learner like myself and you like to hear that. If you're someone who wants a little hand holding, Cami is your girl. Set up a time to chat with her. You need somebody to talk with, process through all the things. If you're a ministry leader and you want someone to come talk about this at your church, talk to Cami. She's your girl.
Mhm.
Anywhere else,
Yeah.
Cami, things you got coming up that you're excited about you want to share with the people?
That is, yeah, most of it. I do have a new puberty course coming out here soon, so I'm really
Wow!
excited about that. And yes, one-to-one virtual consults are my jam right now. I really love that. So I just love to help you identify next steps and go from there. So thank you very much, Annette, for having me on and talking through these things.
You're welcome. And I will put all the goodies in the show notes so people can follow up with you. But do it. It can change your life. Thanks,
Awesome.
Cami. Love you.
Love you too. Thank you so much.